Decapitate her daddies, this is internet personality Vangelus, and after taking a look at Optimus Prime Mole, it only seems natural for my second of 3 Yolopark Rise of the Beasts figure kit reviews to be his implied temporal namesake Optimus Prime. Maybe you've heard of him, he lets them come. This review copy was provided by Yolopark, and while I did go into a bit more detail as to the nature of these kits in the Optimus Primal review, I'll drop a brief summary here for you hyper-nostalgics who still hate Beast Wars as a lifestyle in 2023. These are branded as model kits, but are much closer to being figure kits, as the assembly process is a minor 5 to 10 minute finger dance that doesn't involve putting together any actual hinges or complex joints. Optimus Prime has a fair number of panels to apply compared to Primal, so make sure you don't miss less obvious things like the small red bits that go on the backs of his shoulders. The instructions also imply that 1 or 2 pieces, such as the pectoral windows, need to be assembled, despite them being pre-assembled in the box. I guess it's more so saying you can wriggle that bit loose if you want to paint up the underboob hintergreeble that lays beneath. You might want to use like a spudger to get that thing free though. As with Primal, the hardest part of all this is dealing with tight peg or ball connections. Be firm, be gentle, patient, yet focused. Oh hey, while I've got you here mesmerized by the assembly of leg parts, did you know the assembly of your favorite pieces of media are all done by human beings? Teams of them? I know, it's wild. Absolutely Cocoa Puffs, man. Support unions. I'm assuming Yolopark got access to film assets along with their license, as this seems to be a solidly screen-accurate Rise of the Beasts Optimus Prime. The long-legged, thick-thighed, box-shouldered mecha-father sports some sharp silver paint apps over and around many of his detailed surfaces, along with a few other spot decos here and there, like there's a gold cable right on the inside of his thigh. If you just get him to spread him so you can take a look. Most of his red and blue is actually rendered in separate plastic-colored pieces, which keep things looking lively alongside the slightly dark, slightly light-catching gray plastic of the parts that seem thirstiest for a user-added dry brush of gunmetal from the more hobby-inclined among us. Optimus Prime's accessories are 4 alternate hands to go with his basic closed fists, so he comes with 6 hands in total. The ball socket swap is just as clean as Optimus Primal's, allowing you to trade in a pair of open and slightly splayed hands in case you've ever wanted to see Optimus Prime reaching to palm the skulls of sentient beings. Prime's other 2 spare hands are both single right ones. The first is a classic, the double-digit pointing command hand. Bold and strong, stoic and true. The other is a gripping trigger finger hand for holding a gun. Hypothetically. Yeah, there's no gun here. Yolopark have announced an upcoming accessory pack for this first wave of figure kits, and it's more than likely to contain an optimal firearm. But you know, the orphaned hand is a basic feel-bad. At least it can double as a sultry, beckoning come-hither hand. This is less an accessory and more a play feature, but all 4 of Optimus Prime's visible wheels are free spinning for those who want a straight-up fidget feature on a robot figure kit. Yolopark Prime has a neck ball socket. Whoop! There goes his ear. Yolopark Prime has a neck ball socket joint and then a base of neck ball socket joint, which have, especially at the top, an enormous range of motion because the ball is plunging down in, so the head's at the top of the stalk. And I love this. Just be careful if you push on the inside of his ears. Hypothetically, maybe you might pop one of them off. I don't know. Never seen it proven myself. There's a dedicated little forward butterfly-style thing here. It doesn't really reveal any sculpted detail. It just reveals a cylinder, which I guess you could say is sculpted detail, just very simple sculpted detail, with a forward and backwards motion, with a little bit of a shoulder pad double flappage here. You can go very, very far out on that arm. The top outward flap is kind of very, very visible. I would want to use the silver one first because it's a lot more subtle, but you know, you'll get that far, and then we're going to be going, you know, the full flap. And your bicep swivel works quite happily. Your double-jointed elbow works quite happily. That was not interlink stuff. That was actually just a little thing you got to push back up every time. But when you bend the arm, yeah, it does look pretty cool. There is no linkage articulation here. It's just a very custom double hinge. The wrists are on ball socket connections, that have a fair amount of free range due to being big, thick balls. Your mid-torso joint is much like Optimus Primal's. It's 2 different hinges with a big old peg on the top. So you get a little bit of this, and a little bit of that. Fair amount of that, to be honest. With some spinal cord reveal on the forward ab motion, which is fun, and then a simple pegged waist swivel. Then we get into all the hip skirtage here on Optimus Prime's ample pelvic cleavage. So there's a pair of little ball-socketed front skirts, and then a big, old, interlinked, I guess, double butt flap, which all gives you room to kick, to go outwards. It's a little bit limited, but we've got another one of those swing down axis readjusters so that you can get, you know, the full kick. You can get the full back swing. If you want to wind up for one of those big toe punts, you can absolutely, with things all moved just properly out of the way, perform the optimal teabag. And yonder thighs can swivel a bit. Mostly, I just wish that these butt flaps were separate, and I'm sure one could go in, mod them, you know, just trim the connector peg to make them separate, but I'm a little worried to do that until I know more about how the assembly I didn't do works. Your knee can double hinge. You can't get full range out of both double hinges, so you gotta pick if you're going full top or full bottom first. If you go full top, I think it's a little more exciting. No linkage, but you get a kneecap piece that chills out on the middle part to, again, give that impression of linkage. There's some sculpt showing in here, this sort of like axis wheel thing. Once again, $30 USD price point means you're kind of going for more sleight of hand illusory linkage than actual linkage. The feet peg in so they can do this, and then they got a dedicated, fairly deep ankle tilt, especially inwards. Pretty decently ranged forward-backward tilt. That little hint of the toe, a little bit of toe for your wiggle, and that's more than a bit. You got us a pretty good ROTB Optimus Prime who can pose pretty dang well. He's not really limited anywhere. He's just kind of boxy, and I think generally he can assume most poster poses, like, you know, when he's gonna do the box you. So high marks on that articulation if I were the type who actually scored things. Yolopark's Rise of the Beasts Optimus Prime is a solid figure kit that doesn't really have any glaring faults, just an exacerbated accessory absence. He's the number 3 of the opening wave for me, mostly because he feels the most like an accessory himself compared to Primal and Bumblebee. Like, Optimus Prime here is the one you pick up to pose next to the other ones, less so feature on a shelf by himself. But hey, much like Primal, I am excited to gunmetal up all that dark gray techno-greeble sometime down the line. Anyway, this has been internet personality Vangelus, and I offer a big come hitherto finger out to all of my lovely supporters on Patreon, Ko-fi, YouTube membership, and other platforms. You put the shine in the gold cable that's on the inside of my thighs. Like, thanks to you guys, I can afford lacquer and stuff to keep it looking all nice and not too, like, you know, buffed or scratched from all the chafing between the thighs. Did you think I meant something else?